everybody, grande rising, whatever time of day it is, and welcome back to my channel. Now, of course, I have completed the 20 pounds food challenge, feed myself and Dan for 7 days, 42 meals, and we're just going to have a chat together to discuss how it went. So first of all, I will let you know what we actually spent. Now, I went to Farm Foods and spent £14.50. However, there was a fair few items that I ended up not using. So we've got icing sugar, unsalted Irish butter, a pack of apples, 2/3 of a cauliflower, 4/5 of a spaghetti bag, which was 1 kilo in weight, and half a bag of blueberries. So I didn't use £7.89 worth. So that came to £6.61. Then I bought a few extras from Tesco, which cost £1.73. So all told, that was £8.34, £6.61 and £1.73 is £8.34. Items I didn't use from the £1.73 were one little gem, 22 pence, oranges, 63 pence, we ate only one, and most of a bag of carrots, so 34 pence worth. That totalled £1.19 of that £1.73 we didn't actually spend. So if you subtract the £1.19 from £8.34, all we actually spent on groceries for the week was £7.15. Yes, guys, you've heard it right, £7.15. Now, my subscriber at Jamie's Rock and Soul did say to me, Kat, I bet you can smash it for a tenner. And in one way, it was absolutely right. However, me being fair, decided to calculate extras I used from the store cupboard and the freezer. And I won't go through everything. I will show you, and it goes over the page. So in total we spent £30.97 from what we had in the store cupboard and the freezer, and I didn't have to do that, but I wanted it to be an authentic exercise. So on the one hand, yes, we smashed it, on the other hand we didn't. The total of what we used in store added to what we actually spent came to £38.12, which I still think is pretty good for 1 week for 2 people. Most of the expenditure went on dairy. With the whole Beauvais thing going on, we have started to get dairy produce direct from producers and suppliers, and they cost a bit more than we might pay in the shops. And Dan didn't really rein in any of his dairy consumption. As I think I commented in one of my videos, we should have a cow in the back garden. But all in all, I think it was an interesting exercise and certainly made me think quite hard about what we were using and what I could cook with the available expenditure. But Dan here is going to ask me a few things, because he's had a few thoughts, haven't you, babe? And he's got a few questions to ask me about the whole exercise. So here we go.
Okay. Well, you planned what you're going to do for quite a while, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I planned it over probably a couple of months. A while back, probably a couple of months ago, at Jamie's Rock and Soul, did £50 for 7 days for he and his 2 daughters. And we got talking about it, and he said, "Oh, I bet you could do it easy for like £20 and or even 25." And I'm like, "Oh well, do you think I should have a go?" I had to pick up the gauntlet. I thought it was a really good exercise. And in the days I used to watch television, I used to watch the Back in Time for series. I've always been interested in social history, and I'm particularly interested in the Second World War period as well, and the whole make, do and mend, because that's actually how I was brought up. We never wasted anything in our household. We didn't have a lot of money, and Mum could usually drum up a meal out of nothing, as could my granny, my dad's mum. She could also magic an amazing meal out of very little at all. And my auntie remembers that when she and dad were growing up and granny was a single parent, and while other kids in the area were eating the bog standard typical working class English dishes, granny was cooking up curries and all manner of things that were almost unheard of in the Lake District in the late 40s and the early to mid 1950s. And of course, I had a good relationship with both my grandmas, and I think a lot of what they learned and what Mum learned rubbed off on me, really. So I was busy looking through my wartime cookbooks by Marguerite Patton, as well as thinking about my own recipes and looking at other cookbooks as well for inspiration, and really thinking hard about what I was giving myself to spend and what I could create with the money available. And I chose farm foods because everybody focuses on Iceland or Lidl or Aldi for budget supermarkets, but not everybody focuses on farm foods. Farm foods is less focused on than some of the others. And we don't have anything down south like Heron Foods either, which I know is a really good, I suppose, discount supermarket, you could call it, which really popular up north. We don't have that where we are. We don't even have a Pound Bakery. They're not a chain that you tend to find in the southeast at all. So it was with that in mind that I decided to choose farm foods, and also because some of their dairy, including the butter, happens to be bovine free, and with all the Arla methane reducing additive in cows going on, I'm mindful more than ever to shop with concern. And also Farm Foods happens to be a Scottish brand, and being Scots European, it seemed like a good idea.
So that's why you chose Farm Foods?
Yes,
which I was going to ask you that.
Yes, it's a long convoluted answer. Yes.
And what did you think of the choice?
Not very good. I've seen much better choice down the Asian mini market on Harbour Street, to be perfectly honest, and fresher. in actual fact, the mini market on Harbour Street is brilliant if you're in the Ramsgate area and enjoy eating, I suppose, Asian food and Caribbean food. They have quite a good range of stuff in there, as well as well-known brands of Eastern European foods. There's also an Eastern European mini market as well. I think it's Romanian on Harbour Street. And I think perhaps I might have done better going there. There was hardly anything that we normally enjoy to eat, such as bananas. They were all overripe and they hadn't been reduced in price. But most of the, if you like to call them bins, which is what we call it in warehousing, that had the fruit and vegetables in were almost empty. And the other fresh food supplies were a little bit on the lacking side. We certainly didn't have enough for a lot of frozen food. We didn't buy any because I'm a prepper. There's always things in the freezer and we just hadn't eaten that much out of the freezer because I'm such a good prepper. We get through our food very slowly. You know, I get marketing emails quite often from the likes of Ocado, but we just don't get through that much food expenditure. We spend mostly on fresh fruits and vegetables, and we get fish and meat from the butcher. I bake most bread, but otherwise it usually comes from the baker. And we use farm shops and greengrocers, and also veg box schemes like Riverford. And our dairy is now coming from Milk and Morphle Organic or Riverford, and then the raw organic dairy products from Fen Farm Dairy in Suffolk. So it was a bit of a challenge finding things to buy that would help to fuel our bodies and provide us with enough nutrition.
And what were the main challenges of the experiment?
The choice was one of the main challenges, also the budget, because everything has gone up such a lot. You can't really get half as much as you probably could a couple of years ago. Also, the variety. I had to be really inventive with what we had, and I really missed having all that fresh food that I'm normally used to eating. That costs quite a bit more, even though I am careful how much I spend on food. Bearing in mind it's usually me who buys most of the food and I have a limited income, and that's normally my contribution to the household is the food. That's one of my main contributions. And there wasn't enough food for me because I've got a faster metabolism than you as well. So you were well fed. I needed to make sure that you had enough food because you're out and about all day in your tuning work, and you often go out early and don't come back until 6, even 7 o'clock at night, even later, because you had a couple of meetings that week as well. So you were out longer, and it makes you really notice. I think it's when you've got less food, it's psychological. You feel more hungry. Somebody like me who has maybe 1 or 2 meals a day, but I like a little graze as well, so I'll have maybe a banana, which is good carbohydrate, for example. And there weren't the bananas, or I might have a handful of nuts. I mean, one day I did cave in and have some peanut butter because that helps to keep me fuller for longer. But I don't normally eat huge quantities of bread either. And I could have just eaten bread because I was hungry. So for me, there wasn't quite enough food always. And I woke up in the morning feeling really hungry. And I did manage to find ways of tweaking that as the week went on. Another challenge was the amount of prep, the amount of cooking I was doing. Because I lead such a busy life doing, your paperwork and my creative things. And it was doing even the vlogging every day, the videos and the editing. And I have a real respect for YouTubers who put content out every day, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes, the amount of work that's involved. Hats off to them. I mean, some of them are holding down jobs as well. And, people just think it's easy. You just go on YouTube and you just do a video for a few minutes or 20 minutes. It's not like that at all. Depending on what area you're covering, the amount of research as well that you need to do before you put out your video. There's some YouTubers who only do one video a week, such as Hannah Ricketts, who has over 250,000 subs, and she is a licensing lawyer, so she licenses merchandise, and that means she's so busy in her job that she will only put out one video every week, but before Christmas she was doing 3 a week. And that's a tremendous amount of work on top of your full-time job. And then even if you've got maybe only, say, 1,500 subs, again, the amount of work that you have to put into producing your videos, it's not just a 5-minute thing. So they were some of the main challenges, and trying to, not blow the budget. It's the time factor though. It was a bit stressful at times.
Yes, I can imagine. What's your observations having done the challenge?
Firstly, how much everything has gone up. And I think if you say on a limited income and you're providing for your family, it's a real challenge making sure that you've got enough nutrition, fruit and vegetables. It's very difficult, especially with the other things in the cost of living, such as bus fares, which have shot up from the 1st of January, and the cost of utilities and other things, petrol. And then maybe a reduction in benefits. Pensioners have been hit hard, and now they're going for the disabled people as well, and carers. It never ends, the amount we're having to pay out for. And some people are even struggling to pay the rent, let alone put food on the table. And I can honestly see why some people are tempted to go to Iceland and just eat pizzas at £1 each, or a packet of pasta, and they might not be in the position where they have learned to cook a wide range of foods. I think as well, it depends how we've been brought up, the people around us. And in schools, I'm not sure anymore whether they have things like homecraft or home economics as it was when I was growing up. So many people don't seem to be able to cook, or don't have the confidence in the kitchen, and that needs looking at as well.
When I was at school, we didn't have home economics. I went to a boys' school.
You didn't have home economics?
We didn't have it at all.
You see, I think it's an important life skill. I think they should be teaching life skills at school.
We had cooking at primary school.
Did you? We never had it at primary school.
It's only very basic, but not at secondary school, because it was all boys. They didn't see it relevant for some reason best known to themselves.
That's odd. I know lads who can cook. My friend Yvonne, her kids, they can cook. My brother can cook. You know, my cousins, one of my cousins, her son, he can cook. You know, it's something basic. Everybody should be able to do some form of cooking.
They thought sport was more important at my secondary school.
But I would beg to differ. I think it's really important to be able to budget and manage the money that you've got and learn to put food on the table.
Because playing lots of football and rugby would work up an appetite, and you want to be able to cook something to satisfy that appetite.
Yeah. But it is, one thing I have noticed is how much everything has gone up, and you know, you can't buy as much fresh food at all as you could even a year ago. And that's a bit worrying. It just makes you acutely aware of how much of the UK is probably struggling a lot more than we are. We're probably in a better position than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I might have criticised in the past people who did rush down to the frozen food centre and bought a pizza. But actually, having done this exercise, I'm not going to be as critical. I'm a bit more understanding how difficult it is.
Yeah. If you were to do it again, what would you do differently?
Well, actually, I've thought about this. And we have talked about, we have mooted, haven't we, about how I would do things differently. And I probably would be tempted to do it again. I think next time I would get you to get 2 bags of shopping from the Co-op Too Good To Go app.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Which is, it's, I think, £3.29 a bag. So 2 bags is £6.58, and see if I could manage to feed us on £6.58.
Yes, the co-op, the local co-op's pretty good when it comes to Too Good To Go. We went, when we were up in Yorkshire last spring, we went to Morrison's and we got 7 loaves of bread, but no fish.
No. Many other very high carb, high sugar, starchy...
Yeah, some serene, I think it was.
Things that are not good for you. There was nothing of real nutritional value in there at all, really.
No.
And we ended up donating most of it to the local food bank.
Yeah.
It was all fresh still. So I think I would probably... I probably would do it again, but I might be tempted to try it with Too Good To Go and see how we got on with that.
Yes, I think that would work.
Yeah, or even just going down to the Asian mini market or something like that. I would probably try and find some way of making you, or encouraging you rather than making you, consume less dairy. Because that blew the budget, the amount of dairy. You were guzzling like a drunk in a pub.
I think it's better than drinking alcohol.
I know, darling, but, you know, there's 2 things you need to remember. First of all, dairy has calories and sugar. And secondly, it's very feeding. And if you've already got a slower metabolism than and I need over 2,000 calories to stay the same weight, never mind about losing weight, and your metabolism is nearer 1,300 calories a day, which is a lot lower. Although probably since you've been to the gym, it's gone up a little bit. I think it's sped up a bit. Nevertheless, it's substantially less than the average male. Then I don't really think you should be consuming as much dairy if you genuinely want to try and shed those extra pounds that you know you need to shed. And I think I would also be inclined to do a bit more batch cooking. So cook less during the week, but maybe have a couple of mornings or maybe a couple of afternoons batch cooking. That would certainly then leave me with a lot more time to do other things rather than just spending a lot of time in the kitchen or feeling downright hungry. I think, is that it? Is there anything else?
I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
And how do you think? Let me turn the tables now and ask you how you thought it went, and what, if anything, you missed, and in fact whether there's anything you'd like me to do differently.
I think it went quite well. I feel like the food was controlled a bit because of the budget.
Yeah. What in particular did you feel controlled? What was controlled?
The dairy.
the dairy. Well, I mean, it wasn't really because I was
discussing it. It just felt, I had to watch what you're eating and make sure we watch what we're spending on food.
I mean, you didn't really suffer because you still had your beautiful salads and everything, and soups and goodness knows what else.
It's you.
It's worse for me because I don't really eat meat, so it was quite restrictive for me, because there's certain things, like I could have eaten twice as many eggs. Eggs are one of the most important things for me, and I eat yoghurt as well. I don't really do much other dairy, but I like eggs and yoghurt, and I had to watch how many eggs we were eating, or I was eating.
One thing that came to my mind, if we use Too Good To Go, they might give us a load of Bovaer infested milk in the bag. So you can't pick and choose. That's what you get.
Yes, yeah.
That's what they've got left.
I guess if we were given Bovaer infested milk, I would be inclined to cook with it, because that kills off some of the stuff in there. I mean, if it's near its sell-by date, you can't exactly send it to a food bank either. Although there'd always be somebody grateful for it, even, somebody in a doorway somewhere would be grateful. So, you can always find somebody who'd be happy to take the milk. Not that I would particularly want to saddle them with Bovaer additives in dairy, because if I don't want to consume it, I'm not going to encourage anybody else to either. But what would you have liked to have seen, or what would you have liked me to have done differently?
I think you did it pretty well, considering the circumstances. Yes.
I mean, £7.15 actual expenditure is pretty good for wheat.
Yes.
It just makes you think as well, doesn't it? During the Second World War, what things must have been like. Must have been incredibly hard. As I said to you at the time, afterwards, I wouldn't want to do this week in, week out. And during the war, there was 4 or 5 years of it. The war started in September 1939. It went on till the spring of 1945. So that's almost 5.5 years, isn't it? And then there was still rationing until 1954. Sugar came off in 1953, and then meat was the last thing to come off ration in 1954. There was a phase where a lot of rationing came off, but then they had to go back onto it because of shortages and other economic factors as well. So people, I suppose, got used to it. I mean, the thing about the 1940s, often potatoes are often condemned, starchy carbs. However, in the Second World War, people were encouraged to eat potatoes and grow potatoes, because although, yes, they were starchy, they helped to fill you up, and you've got vitamins, the skins, anything with a potato, the potato skins, and the same with carrots as well, and other vegetables. You can eat the skins, and things like butternut squash, because they've got goodness in. So people weren't discouraged in those days from eating potatoes to fill them up. And I'm glad that we buy 12.5 kilo sacks of potatoes from the farm shop for £5. We got one today, and it works out at 40p a kilo, which is a hell of a lot less than what you pay at the supermarket.
We just keep it in the shed and bring in what we need.
So what, if we were to do it again, what would you like to see on a menu? Were we to do it again?
It's fairly simple things it would be, wouldn't it? You can do like curries and with it.
Would you like to see some with more taters?
I think so, yes, that fills it up better.
You see, another thing as well is some of our vegetables are still growing outside because the weather last year was a bit disruptive and they're still not ready. The weather was wet last year and we had a bit of a hurdle with our own growing pattern, didn't we?
Yeah, so I don't know what it's going to be like this year.
Well, we're going to be starting a bit early. I've got a special project I'm going to be starting off next month, and we've also got some winter lettuce seeds as well. We have got lettuces growing, but they've been quite small. It's not been very good, has it? The leeks are doing all right,
Yeah.
And we could pick a few young ones, but it's quite difficult, isn't it? But I think all in all, would you say we've not done too badly?
I think we did okay with it, yeah.
Marks out of 10. If you were going to give me a mark out of 10, what would you give me?
I'd say about 9.
9?
Yes, I think that's a good score.
So if it was a school report then, if you've got effort and attainment, what would you give me on my school report?
Probably B+, so.
B+?
I think I'm fairly strict.
Only B+?
I'd say a pretty good mark, really. You can appeal it if you like.
Yeah, I think I would have thought that even an A-.
I think is a bit more generous, isn't it?
Would have been, even if attainment was only B+, I thought.
I think it'd be in the A range for effort because he did a pretty good job. Actually.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I should turn the tables and get you to cook for a week and see how you like it.
I don't think I'd achieve even a B+ for that. Probably.
Well, you managed to burn a Greg's cheese and onion pasty, didn't you?
Yes, I think a Z- in my case.
Well, thanks, folks. Anyway, I can't say that I'm disappointed that it's the end of the experiment, but how did you think that I did? Would you give me more than an A and a B+ on a school report? Would you give me less? Let me know, as usual, down in the comments, and thanks for watching me on this journey. See you again soon. Take care. Bye for now.